Well, hi everybody, this is Shaine Mata. Welcome to Travel.Write.Money, and today we have the lovely and gracious Alma. Hello, Alma.
Hello, Shaine.
We're kicking off a podcast for the channel Travel.Write.Money. It used to be Travel.Write.Money, but then that got weird for trying to set up the email, and so I bought Travel.Write.Money.com, which works even better. So we're kicking off this podcast to do something together as a couple, so that way it's we're mentioning earlier about how maybe we can do a oral history, and so Alma here is a historian, and can you tell us a little bit about what oral histories involve?
It's just basically the documenting of just a history, either personal history, cultural history, any history. But for me, it's important to leave something behind for just that I was here. Like, remember how we used to, like, I would on my notebooks or whatever, the covers that we would put on the books for school, I was here, or like on my friends, Alma was here, and then the date. Mm-hmm. That's what I want to do. I want to leave something.
Picnic tables.
That's graffiti. But the other was too, but it was just something to say, hey, I was here. Mm-hmm. I lived. I'm no longer here, but this is my marker. Yeah. So for me, history, that's what history is. And for just doing it digitally now, because it's moved so much, technology, it now allows us to leave a recording. Someone in the future will hear my voice now, or in the present, or right. Obviously in the future, but hopefully my descendants will know what I sounded like.
That's cool.
They won't have to imagine what I sounded like. And
in terms of research, also, they're considered a primary resource, or a primary, what do you call it?
Yeah, it would be a primary source. So, yeah.
What's the difference between that and some other type of source? Like, how does history distinguish?
Obviously, secondary would be, it would be somebody using this source or this recording and then writing notes on that. And it kind of loses. It's like a copy of a copy of a copy. It eventually loses its originality, I guess. Or like us now interpreting the Declaration of Independence is a primary source. Mm-hmm. How we interpret it now, because of the way it was written, how it's interpreted now, maybe isn't what the founding fathers wanted or meant. And then in the future, how will they translate? Even 20 years after it was written, and once everybody started dying, the original signers, it's just interpretation. It just isn't what it was originally meant. So you lose. It's always a loss, I think.
Okay. Well, speaking of history, I guess we have a rough outline here of what we're going to do the show today. We're going to start off with a bit of our background, and we're going to talk about our dream destinations, because this is somewhat of a travel podcast, and also we are going to talk a little bit about retirement. We're kind of putting the cart ahead of the horse, but I think that's ultimately our goal together as a couple. Is we're looking forward to retirement. I feel like I've worked too long already, and I don't know about Alma.
You've been working since your teens. Yeah, this is too long.
Okay, so background. I think it's fair to say that both of us grew up, without a lot of wealth in the family. We both grew up poor. Very similar backgrounds, right? Migrant workers, families.
Well, I think your family migrated more than we did from just listening to you guys. But I think we only really did it for 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 years. But it still was enough to show me I don't want to be this poor. And like, if you're always working, you can't.
It's motivating.
It's motivating, but you can't travel. You're traveling, but it's not for pleasure. There's not enough time for you to. If you're gonna go somewhere to work, you're probably not gonna have enough time to.
Or
enjoy.
Money, because
you gotta get money to come back.
Right. So that's how we grew up, and I think that affects us, or even today, even though we're not those people, we are those people, and it affects the way we make decisions and what we value, things like that, and that forms of the basis of a lot of like our search for some sort of freedom or independence. So some of the things that we've learned along the ways of I've always been a reader of things like Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then as a family we play Cash Flow every once in a while. The kids love it. They're big onto that, and we jokingly call them tax deduction number 1, number 2, and number 3. We have 3 children, but because that is that we just do it as a joke, but I mean that kind of
It's accurate.
plays along with the idea that well, actually, yeah, we kind of relied on those tax returns for the longest time. Also,
For the longest, yeah, it helped us get through school. It helped me get glasses just to see. Obviously, pay off the bills, but it did give us that. Well, I mean, and sometimes just showing up for work and having to put school to one side. So, yeah, I mean, well, the little one still, she's still a teenager, barely, but even though now we pay taxes, but it's just it did help then, especially with financial aid for school, for education.
yeah, and so Alma finished school. She finished her bachelor's and is working towards a master's. I never finished college, but I've always been working, trying to make ends meet, and it wasn't until I don't know, like what, 6 years ago maybe. I forget when it was exactly. I don't know, something clicked in me, and then things started turning around. Because we struggled for the longest time as a married couple, as a family. But at some point, things turned around and we started becoming more prosperous, even though
We're still in the hole.
yeah, I've changed jobs almost as frequently, but not. It hasn't been where I'm just going sideways. It's always been upwards in a way. So
I think for a long time it was just going sideways, but it was trying to find your where you clicked.
where I belong. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think that's important, and so actually part of this also is so the podcast we're going to be posting on. Well, actually, I'm not even sure where we're going to put it. For sure, it's going to be on Hive, on 3Speak, but we might put it on YouTube. I haven't quite figured that one out yet. But anyways, it'd be worth multiple streams of income. But,
yeah.
But anyway, that's kind of like a broad background of our history, and just so you have an understanding of where we're coming from when we're talking about money, about traveling, about writing, and about money. The writing part, neither one of us is much of a author. We haven't written any books, but I blog a lot, and Alma reads a lot, and the intention, yeah,
like a lot, talking a lot.
We have books all over the place, and we finally switched to Kindle to help fix some of that. But
and that's a lot of reading and a lot of books. But I love to read, and it's more for me. It's more of an escape, and I've always, I guess, one of the reasons or one of the, I don't know, that came out of being so poor is that I felt the need to escape being poor, I guess, or just escape into my imagination. And so I like to live in the medieval places and castles, and
yeah.
And if they had plumbing, and I would go back there and 1400, but no, and I get my shoes dirty and I'd be cold all the time. But it's just I like to read a lot, and if I have to read, I will read. I would rather read what I like to read, and I know Shaine for a long time liked to, when he had time, he would read as well. So I mean, we clicked in that, but yeah, I mean, I read a lot.
Yeah. Actually, I would say that reading kind of brought us together, because she'd always have her nose in a book, and I was always curious, and I'd bother her. But I mean, I always appreciated that she read, because I guess
don't meet a lot of people that like to read. I mean, even now at work, we joke around about um the not reading versus the me. It's me against everybody, it seems, because nobody at work likes to read.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was more like I never was really attracted to other girls so much because they were ditzes. And they like that was a big turnoff. And so Alma was the only person I knew who read
Nerd.
as much.
I'm not a nerd.
And I'm not a nerd, but
I'm not a geek.
we could
either.
hold a conversation and we could talk about things like medieval times or traveling
Did
or
we ever?
other parts of the world. It was more the potential, just knowing that, because Alma doesn't just read any book; it's a specific type of book.
It's a romance novel.
Historical romance, but there's history in it, and that's so it wasn't like a complete. It's not complete crap. It's there's some value.
It's not what's it called? The Bridgertons. I haven't read that yet, but I guess eventually get to it. But I mean it's just como dicen, utter rot. It just rots my brain, but
no,
I'll read
the
other
thing is
stuff.
You have to make it credible, right? And so a lot of these authors put a lot of research into the way people lived back in those days.
The lady that wrote Twilight didn't put that much research into, but I get what you mean. That's right there, utter rot. But anyway,
what's the other ones?
No, but I read a lot of the. I think that's what. Getting back to the travel, that's what. I don't know. I can't think of the word, but that's what made me want to travel, to see these places where these battles took place, or to see these castles. Hopefully a lot, I mean, sadly, a lot of them aren't up anymore. The world wars did away with that. They just bombed the hell out of that part of the country, of the world. But some of them are still there, some of them are ruins. Just starting with King Arthur, that's way out on the other side of the world. But I've always been interested, I guess, King Arthur, and that's what made me want to travel to England, and that's what made me want to travel to Scotland and to now the Shetlands. And
I guess that's a good segue to what our dream destinations, because that's
where I want to go. That's the part of the world that I'm interested in. And for me, it's not Europe. Well, technically, I guess it is Europe, but it's just my desire to get to know is that part of the world, the other side of the pond, como dicen.
Yeah. And by the way, we're bilingual, both of us, so we might every once in a while throw in a Spanish word or two or five.
They're not bad words. It's okay.
Yeah.
Although I have potty mouth too, so
I think we're okay with potty mouth if you have to express yourself. There's no podcast police that's gonna tell us we have to clean it up. So the dream destination. So I think you've warmed up. Europe in general, you're not really all that keen of. It's more specific England. You're warming up to Greece.
Greece is I've always seen it. It's sunny, but it's just from stuff that I've seen on HGTV and other stuff, and it seems I don't know. It's just beautiful. Just to begin, there's the historical también, the Spartans and all them peoples.
Right.
It would be on that side of the world, but it seems like it's, I don't know, it's too rocky in some places, but it's old. It's still old. Is
that the attraction? Is just the age, the antiquity of it?
Yeah. For me, yes. For you, I don't know if that's where you want to go, but for me, it's just the stories that can be gathered there that I can learn something.
I think I wouldn't mind. I've familiar somewhat with some of the food, not all of it, but I don't find it.
They have alcohol.
Well, okay, I'm sold. Let's go.
But
speaking of alcohol, Italy. How are you on Italy?
I'd like to go to Italy. I'd like to visit.
Yeah.
A month or 2 or 7.
7.
We'll see. They don't have to be consecutive. But
yeah. Spain,
yeah. Only because that's, I think, more of a personal history. My dad says that like I was telling Magnus earlier, I think my grandfather's father or grandfather was Spanish, but I don't know. They don't have.
Well, they'd have to be from, Spanish.
Well,
Spanish. You mean not like Spanish descent?
Yeah, Spanish is Spanish. Yeah, so I think the Spaniard is in the family somewhere, not that far behind. So I would like to, I mean, obviously first do the ancestry, see where it is, and then see if I can track some historical record. But I need to win the lottery,
Yeah.
so I don't have to go to work.
So definitely not France, though, right? That does no.
No, that's just no.
Germany?
No.
Not at all.
No.
Switzerland?
For the chocolate. No, France maybe, but I don't know. Because obviously the reign of terror and all that.
Yeah.
Pero it would be, I think maybe just for like to go visit Versailles and all of those, and
is
like,
it history based? Like, well, there's also that. There's like Versailles and all that. But I'm thinking more like, how about
maybe libraries,
stuff like Charlemagne type history, or is that too distant?
That it's kind of distant, but our daughter is named after his mother. Was it, or was it Alexander?
I'm not sure.
I don't remember.
Io? I thought
Constantine. Never mind, it's Constantine.
Yeah.
I think it was Constantine.
That would have been Magnus.
Who? What?
Constantine.
Magnus. That
so
would
our
have been Magnus's
kids, our children's names are Tien, Magnus, and Io, and a lot of it came from history, except for Tien.
Except Tien was Tien's special.
Yeah.
Tien's the first one.
So for my destinations, for sure Europe. I wouldn't mind visiting some parts of Eastern Europe. I'd be curious for like Georgia or what's that? Not Russian place. They're next to Russia.
Iceland.
Well, Iceland.
Iceland. You keep mentioning Iceland.
Okay, yeah. I
next
wouldn't
to
mind
Russia.
visiting. Yeah.
Oh damn.
The name doesn't come to mind, but they're always in the news. So they got invaded, I think, or Ukraine. I wouldn't mind visiting Ukraine for a little bit, just to go see, but maybe not to stay for too long. But I'm also interested in South America. I'd like to visit Argentina, Peru, Chile. I'd touch on Colombia a little bit. Maybe what's that? Central America.
I don't know.
Belize or Costa Rica or now with the Bitcoin, El Salvador would be another place to go visit. Just to wander around and see how other. The first thing that comes to mind is like how other Mexicans are living, but they're not Mexican.
They're just Spanish.
Yeah, Spanish speaking. But yeah, for sure Argentina, because I saw that show The Long Way Up with what's his name?
Mm-hmm.
That English guy that on Star Wars, Obi-Wan.
Ewan
McGregor, yeah. So they went motorcycle riding from the southern tip of South America all the way up to LA on motorcycles, and a lot of the land down there was amazing. It was mountains and deserts and beautiful forests, all kinds of.
There was a bit of everything.
Yeah, and so I'd never had seen that. I thought it was all just Amazon forest, but apparently there's more geographic diversity than I imagined. So that's got my curiosity to go visit. Maybe not to stay, but to travel through and just see the wonders.
Like he did.
Yeah.
Like he did basically just drive through, get there, sleep, wake up, eat.
Yeah.
Let's take off and charge their
motorbikes. Yeah, spend maybe a day or two in some places, just to get to know people. Just for me, I think it's the culture more than, or meeting people is more the attraction. The history is cool too, but it's not the main motivating factor, I don't think. A lot of these countries have pretty cool histories as well of their revolutions and how they wound up where they are now. pretty bloody histories
Bloody.
in a lot of places.
A lot of the world is like that.
So possibly I'm thinking that we could start off our retirement. Well, I guess we can segue to retirement is my thinking. I don't know. We haven't fleshed this out because, we have time, and plus,
We think we have time.
we're different people, so we have different interests, and those interests change over time. So I'm thinking, for me, start off cheap in Central South America, and as we get older, start spending more time in Europe. I have figured out kind of more or less how we could probably stay in the UK, because I think the biggest problem is going to be immigration, right?
Yep.
Getting visas to stay. So I think Alma could do student visas. Even though we're older, we could still become students and stay 9 months. Get a, finish your master's there, or get a doctorate or something, and that might be a way to spend time there. I don't know if that translates, if the visa also applies to family or just the student, but that might be something to explore. Another potential thing is they have work visas for migrants.
Still be doing the migrant thing, aren't we?
Or you can just hop around, live a little bit here, live in the UK for a little bit, jump over to Ireland, jump over to Italy, and then cumulatively over time just kind of build up enough time to apply for residence or something like that. So would you be interested in getting like a second citizenship or
I think
residency?
I think residency or citizenship, whichever. My body's got to come back to be buried in South Texas because I'm a Texas girl.
Yeah.
All y'all can stay wherever you want. I'm coming back. Bring my body back.
Yeah. For Alma,
I
the
need
priorities are, was it God, family, Texas, and then country?
It depends on any given day. But yeah, I mean, for me, retirement, I can't retire in 4 years like I wanted to. Wait, 3 years. I don't know how old I am.
We're
But-
both 47-ish, in that range.
In that, yeah, I don't know, 46, 47, 48, something like that. I forget. But my plan really was to retire. I wanted to retire no later than 52. But I didn't win the lottery, so I got to keep pushing it. So yeah, I mean, for retirement, for me, it would be to be able to travel, to be able to still study. I mean, that's who I am. But I want to see if hopefully I can pick up the writing. I mean, even if I have to self-publish, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's doable.
And have that generate some kind of an income, maybe, so that we can, so that we can travel. Because I don't think, for me, traveling alone it doesn't seem fun.
Alone by yourself, or alone just only traveling?
No, alone by myself.
Okay.
It's like going to the grocery store. I don't have fun when I
Do it alone.
I need somebody to. I think that's my mom's fault. My sister was always with me, so it's just something that I don't like being alone to do stuff by myself. I will, but I'm in and out. So I think if I had traveled alone, I would do the same thing, just in and out. I don't feel motivated to explore.
On your own.
It's a library.
Okay.
Maybe.
So you need
it's more,
somebody to drag you along.
I need somebody to bounce ideas off, I
Okay.
guess. Because if I do it, it's just going to be, okay, I'm going to go in there, do what you're going to do, and then get the hell out. That's the way I've always been. So, yeah, I need somebody to bounce ideas off of. Just even if it's just like, hey, do you think I should read this book?
Mm-hmm.
That's just who I am. It's just I've always had somebody to bounce ideas off. That's why you need to go to the grocery store with me, because I end up walking out with purses and stuff and Walmart crap I don't need.
That slows down our dreams.
That slows me down.
So it slows down the retirement.
That's why I didn't mention to IO earlier, hey, you want Starbucks? Because just going into Kohl's, get the dress, and we're out. And shoes, but that didn't work out. But anyway, yeah, so for me, the retirement would be to maybe retire Well, no, I wanted to retire in England.
Mhm.
But even if it's just to visit for short periods of time to do research and then get out, go somewhere else and write, I think that's what I would do.
So that part of it, the thinking for me for like South and Central America was at least for a couple of years at the beginning once we retire. So I'm guesstimating we'll retire around 57 age. So another 10 years.
So I get to retire before you do?
Probably. I think you will.
For 8 months.
I think you could, but because hopefully by then we'll have other sources of income, that supplement, and then you wouldn't have to work. But what my thinking is, we can live in places where it's less expensive to live for a couple of years to help us build up savings even more, so that way we can afford to live in the more expensive places in Europe.
Well, even if it's temporarily.
Yeah. So
I mean, living in someplace a little more.
And if we go somewhere out in the country, like, out in the Yorkshire country or up in the Highlands or something like that, it should be theoretically cheaper to live out there than living in town. But so we could.
Well, I mean, we're not going to live in London proper.
No.
At least not for any other than to say, hey, hello, I'm here, take a picture, and then leave. My goal has always been to live somewhere like that show we were watching, just in a smaller village. That's where I want to stay, at least if we can push it 3 months, 4 months, depending on.
It was the show with
that lady that I don't remember something.
It's not Camilla. It's
no, it's not. It's
forget her name. Penelope.
It's not Violet either. From Downton Abbey. It's neither one of those.
Penelope something, no?
I think se llama Penelope. I think that's her name. I think I don't remember. I need to go. It's been a month since I finished watching.
It's a show it's on Amazon, right? Where she visits all the villages, or not all the villages, but a lot of villages in the UK.
The premise of the show is that when she was younger in Britain, I think it was the 50s, someone published a series of They published a series of books, and they had specific niches or topics or whatever. So this one that she's going through was just about a series of villages, and so it would do the middle, all of that, and she goes visiting village to village, kind of like county to county, or whatever.
I think both of us agree that we're not really all that interested in the big attractions, maybe just to go see them, but we're more interested in the smaller, I guess, the culture.
Village. Because village to village, it's I mean, like you saw in the show, it's just different. It's a different life. I guess it goes back to when it was different landowners or whatever, and these castles, and then they owned everything for 600 miles around or what. I don't know if England is that big, but they owned everything around, and that was their kingdom. So it's basically just
the manor, the lord of the manor, and all that stuff.
So I would like to go and live somewhere like that and learn about their culture, because even she says it's like a little culture. It's a community. It's just the people there. You move another 20-30 miles away, and it might not be the same thing.
I think we saw some of that where when people moved in, they were outsiders, and it took a
generation or two
for them to be accepted as part of the village.
I think that's everywhere. Everywhere you go, it takes. I mean, you move into a new apartment complex, and it's just the way that people. Like when we first moved into the new apartment complex, when it first opened, we were the first group of people there, and the ladies around there.
We were the cool group.
We talked amongst each other, and then they moved out, and more people moved in, and it's easier to become more selective or more private, except for the people downstairs that were annoying. But it just depends on even here locally. Is it rivalries though, or?
I don't know. I think part of it is we do things differently here, or this is how we do things, and this is how we like to do things. I think that's more of it. And you come in here with your different ways.
Hoity-toity.
Yeah. And that's just you're messing with the natural order of things. I think that may be like kind of the idea.
Yeah. Well, I guess makes sense.
Okay, well, I think we seem to have hit 30 minutes. You want to wrap it up, or?
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
we've hit all three topics, although I do tend to go off on tangents, so.
Well, we can always come back and visit the same thing. Like,
rein me in.
So I think what we can do is just keep a list of things we want to talk about, and then do our 3 for the for the episode, and then we can always revisit, come back, and if we don't want to add something to the conversation.
Yeah, I'll probably forget this conversation ever happened, but there's a record now.
There's a record now.
I was here. Alma was here.
Yeah. Well,
what's today's date? I don't know what today's date is.
So I rarely ever call her Alma. It's always Sweetie. But if I don't know, we can wrap it up here.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. We will be next week again.
I guess
Saturday.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, no, I can't because that's Junior's getting married.
Sunday.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. Then we'll have another episode next week. Hopefully, we'll cross our fingers, and we'll talk to you again soon.